Hey, what is going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link, and today is Thursday, July 19th, 2018, and you know what that means. It's time for another issue of the Bungie Weekly Blog, This Week at Bungie. And this time around, they are following the usual trend. Whenever there's a big content release and we've got a big patch going into effect, generally the TWAB that week is usually pretty light, and this week is definitely no different. There's really not too much to cover in this week's TWAB. But thankfully, outside of that, we've got a bunch of other great information that came out this week from Game Informer's reporting and from the patch 1.2.3 that went into effect earlier in the week. So in this video, we're going to be covering some of the stuff covered in the TWAB, as well as a recent Game Informer video that showed off a brand new public event within the new in-game world space, the Dreaming City. We get a look at a lot of really interesting stuff within that video, including a great look at the incoming Striker Titan Super, the Thunder Crash, as well as a new auto rifle and more gameplay with the Trinity Ghoul exotic bow. But let's go ahead and get on into things. Cosmo is back at the helm of the TWAB this week, and this is what he had to say. This week at Bungie, we released a Prestige update to Destiny 2. It's been another busy week. We deployed update 1.2.3, kicked off a world's first raid race, and started up the last faction rallies of Season 3. All on the same day. And that's certainly right, it's been a very busy week with the world's first for the Prestige Eater of Worlds as well as Spire of Stars. We had update 1.2.3 go into effect, which added in a bunch of exotic armor sandbox changes, some of which have radically changed the way you use a lot of exotic armors in the game. The Doomfang pauldrons are amazing right now, the Crown of Tempest is really good, and we even got to learn what the Solstice of Heroes is going to be all about when that event goes live later this month. And if you'd like to know more about that incoming summer event, we've got a previous video covering it right here on the channel. If you haven't seen it, we'll leave a link to it down in the description box below. But first things first, they wanted to start this TWAB out by congratulating the two teams that got Worlds first on the Eater of Worlds and the Spire of Stars. For the Eater of Worlds raid, it was the team of Eon, Kid Mark, Gooey Gravy, Fami, Chevy, and of course Giggs. For the Prestige Spire of Stars, the team of Incinerate, Soda Solus, Novik, Ether Panda, Bala, and Alex took the win. Congratulations to those two teams for claiming Worlds first for the Prestige Eater of Worlds and the Prestige Spire of Stars. Enjoy the light level 400 loot. And while we've certainly got our final faction rally going on right now, which I'm sure everybody's certainly happy to grind through, I actually kind of wanted to point things over to the Prestige Raid Lair and the current rewards you can get from it right now. Because, as a lot of Guardians have found out the hard way, the light level 400 weapons that you can get from the Prestige Raid Lair, well, you might not want to try infusing those into anything else right now. As players who have completed the Prestige Raid Lair and gotten themselves some 400 power level weapons found out, if you try to infuse those 400 power weapons into some of your favorite stuff like your better devils, like your positive outlook, well, you're actually not going to get any light benefit from that. Those weapons will still stay at a max of 380 to 385 with mods. This of course caused a huge uproar, and thankfully Bungie has addressed it within this TWAB. Non-Prestige Raid Lair legendary weapons will be capped at 385 power when infused with 400 power weapons. The TWAB itself states that weapons earned in Prestige Raid Lairs cannot be infused directly into other legendary weapons. They may be infused into exotic weapons, and those exotic weapons may then be infused into non-raid legendary weapons, but players should exercise caution when doing so because non-Prestige Raid Lair legendary weapons will be capped at 385 power when infused. And they even give us an editor's note to explain why. Weapons from Prestige Raid Lairs and armor from Solstice of Heroes were not intended to be infusion fodder for two reasons. One, these items are intended to be trophies, for players to show their accomplishments leading up to Forsaken. And two, if players who own Curse of Osiris but do not own Warmind use these items for infusion, any gear infused above 335 power will no longer be available for use. Players who have already done this can claim a duplicate of their weapon from their weapon collections, which will become available to all players when Forsaken launches on September 4th, 2018. So there you go, you cannot infuse the 400 power weapons into non-raid legendaries right now. And there's their reasoning for why. Now I'd say that's all well and good, but this is a case of one of those things that should have been explained back when the 400 power level weapons thing was announced, rather than after the fact. You probably could have saved some Guardians a little bit of heartache. But alright, that's pretty much everything that needed to be covered within the TWAB this week. We told you it was pretty light on content overall. Thankfully, we've got plenty more to talk about with the aforementioned Game Informer video. So let's go ahead and dive on into that. Now, yesterday, July 18th, they put out a very quick video showing off a public event in Forsaken's Dreaming City in-game world space. And in this video, we're going to be talking a bit about some of the things we got to see in that video, as well as a few things from the patch notes. So let's go ahead and get into that public event. In this, we get to see the new world space, we get to see a bunch of the new enemy faction, the Scorn, we get to see some Taken, we get to see new weapons in action, and of course we get a great look at one of the big public events within the Dreaming City. Now, this public event was called the Rift Generator, and it had you powering up a generator, then defending it from a deluge of enemies to prevent it from shutting down. It was a pretty simple concept. You went and found an arc orb that you picked up kind of like in Rift, you took it back to the generator, you deposit it there, and that's when the public event really gets started. The generator itself powers up, it has a life bar that really represents the amount of energy it has left, and you have to defend it from waves and waves of increasingly difficult Scorn. Eventually, as the generator deteriorates, you'll have to grab orbs dropped from some of the stronger enemies and run them back to the generator to charge it up again. And we got to see this several times over the course of the video. Some gigantic, almost ogre-like members of the Scorn would spawn, you'd take them out, they would drop additional arc orbs that you picked up, brought back to the generator to restore its energy. All in all, it seems like a very simple concept for a public event. But from the footage we got here, it definitely looks like a lot of fun. Now, we didn't get to see them trigger the heroic version of this public event, but the Game Informer article that came out alongside this video mentions that when you do trigger the heroic version, it takes you to the Dreaming City's darker side, the Ascendant Realm of the Hive. Which sounds absolutely incredible, and it actually ties in, it possibly ties in as the heroic trigger with a lone Taken blight that we spotted during this public event. There might be something that you have to do with that in order to trigger this, go into the Ascendant Realm, and then complete the heroic version of this event. Cannot wait to dive into it on my own, but we also got to see some really great gameplay of the new Thunder Crash Super, a brand new auto rifle, as well as some more extensive gameplay of the Trinity Ghoul exotic bow. The bow itself actually sees a lot of use over the course of this 5-minute video, so if you're really interested in how bows work, their precision damage, and how in particular the Trinity Ghoul and its special ability work, definitely go check it out. I'll have a link to the Game Informer article and video down in the description box below. And it also answers the question, of course, if your teammate steps in front of you while you're firing an arrow, does that arrow stick to them? Well, yes it does. And like I said before, we also get a couple of great looks at the new incoming Striker Titan Super, the Thunder Crash. The first one was a bit of a whiff, it kind of landed after the enemies had disappeared, but the second one landed right on target on one of the new giant hulking Scorn enemies, absolutely one-shotting them. We've seen before the power of the Thunder Crash in previous gameplays, but it's really just being laid bare just how strong of a one-shot hit Thunder Crash is. If you missed the single Titan slam back from Destiny 1 that just eviscerated everything within a set radius, well, it's definitely back with this one. The ability to launch into the sky and aim yourself with it looks like it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's definitely super helpful. But there we go, that's pretty much everything we know currently about the Rift Generator public event in the Dreaming City in Forsaken. Now it is interesting to note that this Game Informer video does end before they open the final chest for the rewards, so you don't get to see your healthy dose of 2 tokens and a blue. But it does look like it's going to be a very fun public event, and I cannot wait to explore the Ascendant Realm within the heroic version. But alright, that's pretty much it for that video. The only other thing I really wanted to talk about in this video is some information we got from the 1.2.3 patch notes, as well as some information that is now available in-game. And this is going to be concerning some of the exotic catalysts that are dropping right now. As you Guardians know, there are a few weapons that previously did not have catalyst drops, stuff like the Sleeper Simulant, stuff like the Sturm, but those are available in-game right now. The Sturm catalyst can be found just by playing and defeating enemies on Nessus, while in particular the Sleeper Simulant's catalyst drops from the Prestige version of the Spire of Stars, but it's got some very interesting challenges tied to it. I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about it. Guardians who have beaten that Prestige Raid Lair and have been lucky enough to get the catalyst drop have been reporting that the challenge to complete this catalyst requires ownership of all 3 of the Escalation Protocol Ikelos weapons. That is the Ikelos SMG, the sniper rifle, and of course the shotgun. And from the looks of things, it's going to require 1,000 shotgun kills, 1,000 sniper rifle kills, and 1,000 SMG kills, all done with the Escalation Protocol Ikelos weapons. That's definitely a pretty tall order considering many players don't currently have all of the Escalation Protocol weapons. Thankfully, as a part of update 1.2.3, they've added in sort of sequential progression towards getting those weapons. As a part of some of the quality of life changes they made within this update, they've adjusted Escalation Protocol weapon reward chances to be more deterministic. Players can improve their chances each time they defeat the boss. So each time you get to wave 7 and beat that final boss, if you don't get a weapon drop, your chances of getting a weapon drop on the next boss clear increase. So hopefully a lot of you Guardians will have some better luck getting your hands on those Escalation Protocol weapons as time moves forward. Because if you're trying to complete the Sleeper Simulant Catalyst, you're gonna need them. But alright Guardians, that is gonna be it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. And what do you think of this new public event within the Dreaming City, the Rift Generator? How do you think we'll be activating the heroic version of this so that we can enter the Ascendant Realm of the Hive? Be sure to let us know down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. But alright, that's going to be it for this one, Guardians. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.